Chapter 26, Introduction to the Biosphere, Section 26.6, Life's Diversity. So let's talk about the diversity of living organisms on our planet. And we're going to use a specific term that is often associated with this discussion, and that's biodiversity. And biodiversity consists of genetic diversity, species diversity, and even ecosystem diversity. But I'll talk more about it in just a second. So if we look at species, how many species might be on our planet? Estimates range from about 5 million to 100 million different species. How many species have been classified to date based on the techniques that we use and the definition of species that we use? About 1.4 million species. Now be careful, because species vary in terms of the genes that they have in their DNA, and it's a gradual change. There technically really isn't much difference in terms of genes between us and a primate, or even us and a worm. Maybe 1% difference in genes. One interesting way to figure out how many species there are is to look at the mathematical relationship that exists when you graph how many different phylums, classes, orders, families, and genus there are on our planet, and then extrapolate further to how many species there are. So this paper was published recently, and it's from a researching group out at an East Coast Canadian university, and they suggested there's probably about 8 million different species. For just animals alone, probably close to 1 million species, as you can see in that pyramid. 953,434. The number of genus there are is 94,240. Family 540,004, and so on. And it grows geometrically in an exponential way, and using this relationship, they're confident that the number of species that are on our planet is approximately about 8 million. So we know that there is difficulties associated with assessing the number of different organisms based on our definition of what a species is, because this definition really isn't that precise. For example, it doesn't work well with a lot of plants. So scientists have developed this notion of biodiversity to overcome some of the difficulties associated with the species concept. And they said biodiversity consists of three things. Genetic diversity, the total number of genetic characteristics expressed and recessed in all the individuals that belong to a particular species. Species diversity, which is the number of different species of things living in an area. And once again, I told you that definition is a bit tricky. And then ecosystem diversity, the variation of habitats, community types, and abiotic environments present in a given area. And why they've added ecosystem diversity is because we've recognized that if we destroy the ecosystems where species live, how do we save them? We need representative ecosystems to keep species functioning and alive. So if we wipe out half of the tropical rainforest, we're going to cause reductions in species diversity and, of course, genetic diversity. We have to keep the homes of these organisms safe. Tropical rainforests may contain anywhere from 50 to 90% of the Earth's species diversity. Right now, tropical rainforest is under attack because of human population growth. With more people comes more need for farmland, more need for settlements, and more need for resources from ecosystems. This is an interesting pie chart. It kind of gives us a relative proportions of different types of organisms on our planet. And we can see that more than 50% of the organisms on our planet belong to the group insects. Plants make up about 18%. And then the next biggest pie in this chart are mites, ticks, spiders, crabs, shrimp, and centipedes. And you can see that mammals make only up a small percentage of the total number of organisms that are found on our planet, that particular group. So if we were to look at species diversity from a geographic perspective, we would see that biodiversity generally increases as you move from the equator to the poles. There is a lull in the subtropics, in the deserts. So scientists have questioned, why does this occur? Why isn't biodiversity equal from the equator to the poles? Some possible factors that may be responsible for more diversity in one place and less in another are things like time for evolution to occur, climate stability, the amount of disturbance, the amount of energy that's available to create biomass, phytomass to feed herbivores, and herbivores being fed by carnivores, the amount of predation in an environment, plant productivity, the amount of land area, and competition intensity. So here we can see the Earth represented in this graph, the amount of land area, the number of mammals found in each one of these geographical zones, the number of amphibians, and the number of birds. And we can see threatened birds, and we can see that it's true. Near the equator is where we have the maximum number of different types of organisms. Here are two graphs showing bird diversity and mammal diversity using isolines, lines of equal species number. And once again, we can see how it increases as you move from higher latitude to lower latitude for both birds and mammals. Here's some more data on the number of organisms found on our planet, and this time we're going to look at islands, and here's the relationship between island size and number of species. One thing that's obvious when you think about life on our planet is that a lot of it has gone extinct over the billions of years that life has existed on our planet. Only maybe 1% remains from all the different species that had once lived at some time or another. So many species have gone extinct over Earth's geologic history. The main reason for these extinctions is environmental change, changes in temperature, asteroid hitting the planet, or biological competition. There have been several times during their history when there have been mass extinctions, and these mass extinctions seem to be tied into some sort of environmental change. The last mass extinction occurred during the Cretaceous, the end of the Cretaceous, 65 million years ago. About 75% of the species were lost, and one of the big losers was dinosaurs. But there is a list of some of the other species that were lost. We know that this was caused by an asteroid that hit our planet somewhere in the Gulf of Mexico. About 200 million years ago was another mass extinction. About 80% of the life disappeared. 250 million years ago, or the Permian, end of the Permian, about 96% of life disappeared. 380 to 360, 75% of life disappeared. And the earliest, or I guess latest, extinction event was about 450 to 440 million years ago, when 86% of marine invertebrates disappeared. Now, the sixth major extinction event may be taking place right now, or started in the last 100 or so years, and it's being caused by humans. And The rate of human extinctions has increased greatly as we either hunt or kill off these species due to our activities, or directly or indirectly because we're destroying their habitats. The current extinction rate is some 1,000 to 10,000 times greater than the natural rate of species extinction, which is approximately 2 to 10 species per year. This is a major environmental problem that isn't really talked about much. It's probably the second most important environmental problem facing humans, with the first being climate change. Some recent extinctions include the following 6 species of organisms, but there are many more.